The rhythmic shuffling of poker cards, the clinking of heavy betting chips, low tense murmurs, smoke hanging in the air. The backroom of the Devil's Lounge smelled of stale cigar smoke, cheap cologne, and fear. Mostly fear. And the fear was coming off my stepfather in waves. I sat on a small wooden stool in the corner, my hands folded neatly in my lap. I wore a faded gray dress that was 2 sizes too big, hiding my figure. My hair was pulled back in a messy bun. I made sure to hunch my shoulders to look smaller and significant. "Please," my stepfather Luigi stammered. Sweat was dripping down his forehead, staining his collar. "Just one more hand. I can win it back. I swear." Across the table sat Death himself. Lorenzo Enzo Moretti, the dawn of the city. He didn't sweat. He didn't smile. He sat in the shadows, his face carved from marble, his eyes hidden behind tinted aviator glasses, even though we were indoors. He tapped a single finger on the table. Tap, tap, tap. It was the sound of a ticking bomb. "You have nothing left, Luigi," Enzo said. His voice was a low baritone, scratchy, like he hadn't slept in a week. "You owe me 500,000, and you have empty pockets." "I have the house," Luigi, desperate, cried. "The bank owns the house," Enzo countered calmly. He signaled to his guard. A massive man stepped forward, racking the slide of a pistol, gun cocking loud and clear. Luigi shrieked, falling out of his chair. He scrambled backward on the floor, pathetic and weeping. "No, no, Don Moretti, please, I have something else." I stiffened. "Here it comes. I knew this moment would arrive. I had been waiting for it." Luigi pointed a shaking finger at me. "Her," he gasped. "Sofia, my stepdaughter. She's young. She's untouched. She can work. She can be whatever you want." The room went silent. I let out a small, perfectly practiced gasp. I wrapped my arms around myself, widening my eyes until they filled with tears. I looked at Enzo. "Look at me," I commanded silently. "See the victim. See the damsel." Enzo slowly took off his glasses. His eyes were gray cold as steel with dark circles underneath them. He looked at Luigi with pure disgust. Then he looked at me. He didn't look lustful. He looked annoyed. "I am not a pimp, Luigi," Enzo spat. "And I don't barter for women. Do you think I run a brothel?" He stood up, pulling a gun from his holster. He pointed it straight at Luigi's head. "You insulted me, offering me a child for your debt." "She's 22, Luigi screamed. "She's beautiful underneath those rags, look!" Luigi lunged at me, grabbing the collar of my dress and ripping it. Fabric tearing. The dress tore at the shoulder, revealing my collarbone and the pale skin of my shoulder. I didn't scream. I didn't fight. I just froze, letting a single tear roll down my cheek. Enzo paused, his eyes locked on the bruise on my shoulder, a gift from Luigi 2 days ago. Something flickered in the Don's cold eyes. Rage, number, possessiveness. He hated weak men, but he hated men who broke things that didn't belong to them even more. "Stop," Enzo commanded. The word was soft, but it froze Luigi instantly. Enzo walked over to me. He towered over me, smelling of gunpowder and expensive espresso. He reached out his leather-gloved hand, brushing the bruise on my shoulder. "Did he do this?" Enzo asked me. I looked up at him. I had to play this perfectly. If I was too bold, he'd kill us both. If I was too weak, he'd leave me here. I needed to be useful. "Yes, sir," I whispered, my voice trembling. "But I don't mind pain." Enzo's eyebrows shot up. "You don't mind pain?" "I learned to be quiet," I said, looking deep into his tired eyes. "I see you have a headache, Mr. Moretti. The lights, the noise, it bothers you." It was a gamble. I had read about his migraines in the papers. I can be quiet. I continued, stepping a fraction closer. I can cook. I can clean. And I will never, never ask you for anything. Enzo stared at me. For a long moment, the only sound was the hum of the air conditioner. He saw a terrified girl trying to barter for her life. He didn't see the wolf calculating the distance to his throat. Finally, Enzo turned to Luigi. "Get out," he said. "The debt," Luigi asked, hopeful. "The debt is paid," Enzo growled. "But if I ever see you in my city again, I will bury you in wet concrete. Leave. Now." Luigi didn't look at me. He didn't say goodbye. He ran. I watched him go, a cold fire burning in my gut. "Run, old man. I'll find you later." Enzo turned back to me. He took off his suit jacket, a heavy black Italian wool coat, and draped it over my shoulders, covering my torn dress. The coat was warm and smelled heavily of him. It engulfed me. "You belong to me now," Enzo stated. It wasn't a question. It was a sentence. "Yes, Don Moretti." I lowered my head submissively. He lifted my chin with one finger, forcing me to look at him. "Don't call me Don," he muttered, his thumb tracing my bottom lip. "My name is Enzo, and you are going to be my cure or my curse. I haven't decided yet." He turned to his guards. "Take her to the car. Burn this dress. If anyone touches her, shoot them." "Yes, boss." As I was led away, I pulled his jacket tighter around me. I allowed myself a small hidden smirk into the fabric. Step 1 complete. I was in the beast's castle. Now I just had to find where he kept the knives. A clock ticking loudly, rain tapping against the window, the sound of someone tossing and turning in bed. A frustrated groan. The Moretti mansion was a mausoleum. Silent, cold, deadly. I had been given a room in the servants' quarters, but I couldn't sleep. My mind was racing, plotting my next move. But at 3:00 a.m., the house wasn't asleep either. I heard pacing upstairs. Heavy, restless footsteps. Back and forth, like a caged animal. Enzo. He wasn't sleeping. The headache must be killing him. This was my chance. I slipped out of bed. I was wearing one of his old shirts that the housekeeper gave me. It was huge, hanging off my shoulder, smelling faintly of detergent and him. I went to the kitchen. I boiled water. I found chamomile honey and a lemon. Simple, comforting. I carried the tray up the grand staircase. My bare feet made no sound on the marble. I was a ghost haunting his halls. I reached the master bedroom. The door was slightly ajar. Inside, it was pitch black. The air was thick with tension. "Who's there?" Enzo's voice cut through the darkness. It was raw, dangerous. "It's me, sir, Sofia." "I didn't call for you," he growled. "Get out." I didn't leave. I pushed the door open gently. "I heard you walking," I whispered, stepping into the lion's den. "I brought you tea. For the pain." "I don't need tea," he snapped. "I need silence. And darkness. Leave before I throw you out." I ignored the threat. I walked to the bedside table and set the tray down. Ceramic cup touching wood softly. My eyes adjusted to the dark. Enzo was sitting on the edge of the bed, head in his hands. He was shirtless. The moonlight outlined the muscles of his back, tense and knotted like steel cables. Scars crisscrossed his skin, a map of violence. "Does it hurt bad?" I asked softly, standing just behind him. He stiffened. "Don't touch me." "I can help," I murmured. "My mother, she used to have migraines. I know where the pressure points are." Enzo turned his head slightly. I could see the glint of his gray eyes narrowed in suspicion. "You are a bold little thing," he muttered. Or stupid. Do you know how many people I've killed for entering this room uninvited? I'm not people, I said, letting my voice tremble just a little. I'm your property. Remember? That stopped him. The word property seemed to trigger something possessive in him. He sighed, a sound of pure exhaustion. If you try anything, he warned, his voice low, I will break your neck. I know, I whispered. I moved closer. I reached out and placed my cool hands on his burning temples. He flinched, his muscles jumping under my touch. He was like a wild horse unused to gentleness. Relax, I cooed. Just breathe, Enzo. I began to massage, slow circular motions. I moved to his scalp, my fingers threading through his thick, dark hair. I pressed on the base of his skull. He groaned. It wasn't a sexual sound, but it was intimate, a sound of relief. His shoulders dropped an inch. His breathing slowed. You have magic hands, he mumbled, his voice slurring slightly. Shh. I hushed him. Don't talk, just sleep. I moved my hands down to his neck, then his shoulders. His skin was hot, radiating heat like a furnace. My oversized shirt slipped off one shoulder, brushing against his bare back. The contact was electric. Enzo froze. His hand shot up and grabbed my wrist. His grip was iron. He pulled me around to face him. He wasn't relaxed anymore. He was wide awake. And he was looking at me with a hunger that had nothing to do with food. He pulled me between his legs. I gasped, my hands landing on his bare chest for balance. His heart was hammering against my palms. Thump, thump, thump. What are you playing at, Sofia? He whispered, his face inches from mine. Walking in here, half naked, touching me. I just wanted to help, I lied, widening my eyes innocently. You are dangerous, he rasped. His eyes dropped to my lips, then down to the curve of my breast visible under the loose shirt. You smell like trouble and honey. He leaned in. I thought he would kiss me. I held my breath, tilting my head back, offering my throat. But he didn't kiss me. He buried his face in the crook of my neck. He inhaled deeply, his nose brushing the sensitive skin there. His stubble grazed my collarbone, sending shivers down my spine. He wrapped his arms around my waist, pulling me flush against him. The heat of his body soaked into mine. Stay, he commanded into my skin. Don't move. He didn't do anything else. He just held me, using me as an anchor. Slowly, his breathing evened out. The tension left his body. He fell asleep, with his face buried in my neck, holding on to me like I was his lifeline. I stood there, trapped in the arms of the man I planned to destroy. My heart was racing, not from fear, but from the strange, intoxicating power of having a monster surrender to you. I looked down at his sleeping face. The lines of pain were gone. He looked younger. I raised a hand, hovering over his throat. I could squeeze. I could end it. But not yet. He was more useful to me alive. And he was warm. I rested my cheek on the top of his head and closed my eyes. Sleep well, my beast. Tomorrow, the hunt begins. Rain continues to fall softly. Fade out. Whispering voices echoing in a hallway. Did you hear? She stayed in his room all night. He never lets anyone in. The sound of a vacuum cleaner turning on abruptly. Rumors travel faster than bullets in the Mafia world, and they hit just as hard. By the time I walked into the kitchen the next morning, I wasn't just the girl Enzo bought to pay a debt. I was the siren, the witch who had tamed the insomniac beast. The maids stopped talking when I entered. Their eyes darted to my neck, looking for marks. There were none. Enzo hadn't bitten me. He hadn't even kissed me. He had just held me, like I was a teddy bear made of flesh and blood. I poured myself coffee, feeling the hostility in the air. Good morning, I said to Maria, the head cook. Maria slammed a pot onto the stove. Don't get comfortable, girl. You think you're special because he let you stay one night. We've seen girls like you come and go, usually in body bags. I didn't flinch. I took a sip of my coffee, looking at her over the rim of the mug. I don't think I'm special, Maria, I said softly. I'm just trying to survive, just like you. It was a half-truth. I wasn't just surviving, I was infiltrating. Heavy footsteps. The kitchen door swings open. Enzo walked in. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. He was dressed in a sharp charcoal suit, his hair slicked back his face, back to being an emotionless mask. He didn't look at me. He walked straight to the coffee machine. Espresso, he ordered Maria. Double. He looked rested. The dark circles under his eyes were lighter. The tension in his shoulders was gone. Maria hurried to serve him. I stood there invisible. Or so I thought. Enzo took the cup, took a sip, and then without turning his head, he spoke. Your shirt. Everyone froze. Sir, I asked. The shirt you wore last night. He said, his voice low, only meant for me to hear. Keep it. It smells like you now. I don't want it back. Before I could answer, he turned and walked out. The silence in the kitchen was deafening. Maria looked at me with wide eyes. Keeping a shirt meant something. It meant possession. It meant territory. I allowed a small, shy smile to touch my lips. Checkmate, Maria. Later that afternoon, I was in the library pretending to dust the bookshelves. In reality, I was memorizing the titles of the books Enzo read. Sun Tzu, Machiavelli, Dante's Inferno. He was a strategist, a man of war. Suddenly the front door chime echoed through the house. Ding-dong, high heels clicking on marble, a loud, arrogant female voice. Where is he? I peeked over the railing of the second floor. A woman stood in the foyer. She was breathtaking. Jet black hair, lips painted crimson, dressed in a white fur coat that probably cost more than my stepfather's entire life. Isabella Vitali, the daughter of the Vitali crime family, and Enzo's fiancé. Well-arranged fiancé. A political alliance that Enzo had been delaying for 2 years. Mr. Moretti is in a meeting, Miss Vitali, the butler stammered. I don't care, Isabella snapped. She pushed past him. Then she looked up. She saw me. Her eyes narrowed. She didn't look confused. She looked furious. You, she pointed a manicured finger at me. Come down here. I took a deep breath. Play the victim, Sofia. Play the mouse. I walked down the stairs, slowly clutching my duster like a shield. Yes, ma'am. Isabella circled me. She smelled of Chanel No. 5 and malice. So, you're the charity case, she sneered. The little stray Enzo picked up from the gutter. I work here, I whispered, lowering my eyes. Work, she laughed. Is that what we're calling it now? I heard you spent the night in his bed. Did you work him hard? She reached out and grabbed my chin, forcing me to look at her. Her nails dug into my skin. Let me give you some advice, little stray. Enzo is a king, and kings don't marry the help. They use them, break them, and throw them away. I am his queen. You are just practice. I felt a flash of anger, hot and sharp. I wanted to slap her, but I didn't. Instead, I let my eyes fill with tears. I let my lip tremble. I know my place, Miss Vitali, I choked out. Please, you're hurting me. Good, she hissed, squeezing harder. Pain is a good teacher. A door opening forcefully. Isabella. Enzo's voice was like a whip crack. Isabella dropped my chin instantly. She turned to him, her face transforming into a mask of sweetness. Enzo, darling, she cooed, walking towards him with open arms. I was just getting to know your new staff. Enzo stood at the door of his office. He didn't move to hug her. His hands were in his pockets. His eyes were fixed on the red marks on my chin. By assaulting them? He asked calmly. Oh, don't be dramatic. Isabella waved her hand. I was just explaining the rules. She seemed confused. Enzo walked past Isabella. He walked straight to me. He didn't touch me. He just looked at my chin, inspecting the damage. His jaw tightened. Go to the kitchen, Sofia, he said softly. Put ice on that. Ice on. Yes, sir, I whispered, scurrying away like a frightened animal. But I didn't go far. I hid behind the kitchen door to listen. Is that how you greet me? Isabella complained. Defending a maid. She is not a maid. Enzo's voice was cold. And you are not my wife. Yet, Isabella corrected, our fathers agreed Enzo. The merger is business. Enzo cut her off. This house is my sanctuary. You come here uninvited again, Isabella, and I will ban you from the property. For her, Isabella shrieked. You're embarrassing me, Enzo. The whole city is talking about how you paid Luigi's debt for a girl. What is she to you? Silence. I held my breath. What was I to him? She is quiet, Enzo said finally. It was a strange answer. She gives me peace, something you have never done. Peace, Isabella scoffed. You're a Moretti. We don't do peace. We do war. That girl, she's weak. She'll get you killed. Get out, Enzo said. Fine, Isabella huffed. But mark my words, Enzo. If you choose a stray dog over a purebred wolf, you'll wake up with fleas, or a knife in your back. Door slams, silence. I waited a few minutes, then walked out of the kitchen with an ice pack on my face. Enzo was standing by the window watching Isabella's car drive away. He looked lonely. Did you hear everything? He asked without turning around. He knew. Of course he knew. Yes, sir. He turned to look at me. Isabella is right about one thing, he said, walking towards me. This world is dangerous for things like you. He stopped in front of me. He reached out and took the ice pack from my hand. He held it to my chin himself. His touch was gentle, almost reverent. Why didn't you fight back? He asked. I saw your eyes yesterday. You have fire in you. Because I looked up at him, letting a single tear fall. Fighting back only makes them hit harder. I learned that from my stepfather. It was the perfect lie. It painted me as broken, helpless. Enzo's eyes softened. The ice in his gaze melted just for a second. Not here, he vowed. Here, if anyone hits you, I hit back. Harder. He leaned in. We were close again. The tension from last night returned thicker than before. I could smell the coffee on his breath. Go to your room, Sofia, he whispered, his voice strained. Before I forget that I'm a gentleman. You're not a gentleman, Enzo, I whispered back, bold for the first time. You're the king. I turned and walked away, leaving him standing there. I felt his eyes burning a hole in my back. He was hooked. Isabella was wrong. I wasn't a stray dog. I was the poison. And Enzo Moretti just took his first sip. Thunder rolling in the distance, a heavy door creaking open, papers being slammed onto a desk, harsh breathing. Happiness in this world is just the calm before the storm, and the storm had arrived. It had been a week since Isabella's visit, a week of stolen glances, lingering touches, and nights where I would sneak into Enzo's room to massage away his headaches. We were dancing on the edge of something real. Until today. I was in the kitchen preparing Enzo's lunch when the guards dragged a man into the living room. He was screaming. Let me go. I have information about the girl. I dropped the knife. It clattered loudly on the floor. Luigi, my stepfather. He had come back. Like a cockroach. I ran to the living room just as Enzo walked down the stairs. He looked lethal. He held a gun loosely in his hand. I told you, Enzo said calmly. If you returned, I would bury you. Wait, Luigi shrieked, falling to his knees. Don't kill me! I have a secret worth millions. The girl, Sofia, do you know who she really is? I froze. My blood turned to ice. Enzo looked at me, then back at Luigi. Speak, Enzo commanded. And if you waste my time, I'll shoot you in the knee. Luigi pointed a trembling finger at me. A smile twisted his ugly face. She isn't just my stepdaughter. Her father, her real father, was Antonio Rossi. The room went dead silent. Even the air seemed to stop moving. Antonio Rossi, the man who had killed Enzo's father. The man Enzo had personally executed 10 years ago to claim the throne. Enzo turned to me slowly. The warmth in his eyes vanished, replaced by a void so cold it burned. Is it true? He asked. His voice was a whisper, but it echoed like a gunshot. I opened my mouth, but no words came out. Denying it would be useless. He would find out eventually. My father died when I was 5, I whispered. I didn't know. Liar, Luigi shouted. She knows. She keeps a picture of him in her locket. She hates you, Moretti. She came here to kill you. Enzo walked towards me. Every step was a threat. You are a Rossi, he said, the name tasting like poison in his mouth. The daughter of my enemy. Enzo, please. I stepped back, tears welling up. I am not my father. I didn't come here for revenge. I came here to escape him. I pointed at Luigi. Enzo stopped inches from me. He reached out and ripped the locket from my neck. Sound FX chain snapping. He opened it. Inside was a tiny faded photo of a man holding a baby. Antonio Rossi. Enzo looked at the photo. Then he looked at me with pure betrayal. You played me, he said, his voice shaking with suppressed rage. The tea, the massages, the innocent act, it was all a lie. You were just waiting for me to sleep so you could slit my throat. No, I cried, grabbing his arm. Enzo, look at me. I helped you sleep. I could have killed you a dozen times, but I didn't. He shook me off. Hard. I stumbled back. Take him away, Enzo ordered, the guards pointing at Luigi. Lock him in the shed. I'll deal with him later. Then he pointed at me. And throw her in the cellar. Metal door slamming shut, echoes, dripping water, teeth chattering. The cellar wasn't a dungeon. It was worse. It was an old wine storage room deep underground with no heating. It was freezing. I sat on the cold stone floor shivering. My dress offered no warmth. I wrapped my arms around myself, trying to stop shaking. Enzo thought I was a spy. He thought I was a monster. But the real monster was upstairs, probably drinking whiskey and trying to forget how my hands felt on his skin. Hours passed, or maybe days. I was numb. My fingers were turning blue. Then the door opened. Heavy boots on stone. Enzo stood there. He held a lantern. He looked like a ghost. He looked worse than me. His eyes were red-rimmed, wild. He walked over and threw a blanket at me. Why? He demanded. Why didn't you tell me? I pulled the blanket around me, my teeth chattering too hard to speak clearly. Would you have let me in? If you knew? I stammered. No, he admitted. I would have killed you on sight. Exactly, I whispered. I just wanted to live, Enzo. Is that a crime? He crouched down, grabbing my face. His hands were warm, painfully warm against my frozen skin. Your father killed mine, he said, his voice cracking. He took everything from me. And you took everything from him, I countered, looking him in the eye. We are even. The debt is paid. Enzo stared at me. He was searching for the lie. He was desperate to find it so he could hate me, but he couldn't. I should leave you here to rot, he hissed. Then do it, I challenged him. Leave me. Let me freeze. But know this, Enzo Moretti. The only person in this house who ever cared about your pain is the daughter of your enemy. He flinched as if I had slapped him. He stood up abruptly. He paced the small cell. He was at war with himself, the dawn versus the man. Finally, he groaned a sound of defeat. He walked back to me and scooped me up into his arms. Damn you, he cursed into my hair. Damn you, Sofia. He carried me out of the cellar. He carried me up the stairs past the confused guards. He didn't take me to the servants' room. He kicked open the door to the master bedroom. He placed me on his bed, the massive king-sized bed with silk sheets. He pulled the duvet over me, tucking me in like a child. He sat on the edge of the bed, his back to me. You stay here, he said gruffly, until I decide what to do with you. You are a prisoner, Sofia. Don't forget that. A prisoner in your bed? I asked weakly, my voice muffled by the pillows. He looked over his shoulder. His gaze was dark, conflicted, and undeniably possessive. The safest place for a dangerous weapon, he murmured, is right where I can see it. He turned off the lamp, plunging the room into darkness. But he didn't leave. He laid down on top of the covers next to me, fully clothed. I felt the dip in the mattress. I felt his warmth radiating towards me. He was guarding me. Or maybe he was guarding himself from me. I closed my eyes, a small smile touching my lips. He knew who I was. He knew I was the enemy. And yet he brought me to his bed. The wolf had been caught, but the hunter couldn't bring himself to pull the trigger. Rain hitting the window heavily, the sound of a gun being disassembled and reassembled. Click, clack, snap. 3 days. That was how long I had been a prisoner in Enzo's bedroom. It was a strange captivity. I wasn't tied up. I wasn't starved. In fact, Enzo brought me food himself. He watched me eat like he was afraid the food might disappear. But he wouldn't touch me. He slept on the far edge of the bed, his back to me, stiff as a board. We were two enemies sharing a pillow, waiting for the other to strike. Tonight, the storm outside matched the one inside. Enzo was sitting by the fireplace, cleaning his gun. He did it methodically, almost religiously. I sat on the rug watching him. You missed a spot, I said softly. Enzo paused. He looked at me, his eyes dark. What? The barrel. There's still carbon residue. He stared at me, then looked back at the gun. I was right. And how would a pampered little princess know that? He asked, his voice rough. I told you, I said, crawling closer on the rug. My father was Antonio Rossi. He didn't teach me how to bake cookies, Enzo. He taught me how to clean a Beretta 9mm before I could write my name. Enzo put the gun down. He looked at me with a mixture of suspicion and curiosity. Show me. I took the gun parts. My hands moved instinctively. I cleaned, oiled, and reassembled the weapon in under 30 seconds. Fast, clicking sounds, the slide racking back perfectly. I handed it back to him, handle first. Enzo took it. His fingers brushed mine. The spark was instant, electric. You are full of surprises, Sofia Rossi, he murmured. Is that a good thing? In my world. He leaned in, his face illuminated by the firelight. It's the only thing that keeps you alive. Suddenly the alarm blared, urgent, piercing alarm sirens. Intruder alert, Sector 4. Enzo was on his feet in a split second. He tossed me the gun I had just cleaned. Stay here, he commanded. Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone but me. Enzo, I called out as he ran to the door. He stopped. Luigi, I said, a cold certainty in my voice. He escaped the shed, didn't he? Enzo nodded grimly. And he brought friends. Stay alive, Sofia. Gunshots echoing in the hallway. Shouts, glass breaking. I stood in the middle of the bedroom clutching the gun. I could hear the battle downstairs. Enzo's men were good, but they were taken by surprise. Then I heard it. Footsteps outside the bedroom door. Not Enzo's heavy boots, scuffling, desperate footsteps. Sofia, open up! It's me, Luigi. Daddy's here to save you. My stepfather. His voice made my skin crawl. Go away, I shouted, aiming the gun at the door. Don't be stupid, girl, Luigi yelled. Moretti is dead. I saw him fall. Open the door and we can take over the Rossi Empire together. Dead. My heart stopped. No, Enzo couldn't be dead. He was the monster. Monsters don't die. But if he was hurt, I made a choice. I wasn't going to hide. I unlocked the door. Luigi burst in a manic grin on his face. He held a crowbar. There you are, you little bitch, he snarled. Put the gun down. You don't have the guts to use it. I looked at him. I saw the man who beat me, the man who sold me. You're right, Luigi, I said calmly. I don't have guts. I raised the gun. I have bullets. Bang, one shot, a body hitting the floor. I shot him in the leg. Luigi screamed, dropping the crowbar and clutching his thigh. You crazy whore, he wailed. I walked over to him and kicked the crowbar away. I stood over him, the gun pointed at his head. Where is Enzo? I demanded. He's bleeding out in the hallway, Luigi spat. My men! They got him! I didn't hesitate. I hit Luigi in the head with the butt of the gun, knocking him unconscious. I ran out into the hallway. The hallway was a war zone. Bodies of guards lay on the floor. At the end of the hall, I saw him. Enzo. He was leaning against the wall, clutching his side. Blood was seeping through his white shirt. 3 men were advancing on him. He was out of ammo. He held a knife ready to fight to the death. Enzo! I screamed. The men turned. I didn't think. I fired. Bang, bang, bang! My aim was true. 2 men went down. The 3rd man, a giant, roared and charged at me. I pulled the trigger again. Click. Empty. The giant lunged. I braced for impact. But it never came. Enzo moved. Despite his wound, he threw himself between me and the attacker. He tackled the man, driving his knife into the giant's neck. They both fell to the floor. The giant stopped moving. Enzo didn't get up. Enzo! I dropped the gun and fell to my knees beside him. He was pale. So pale. His gray eyes were unfocused. Sofia! He wheezed. I told you to stay in the room. Shut up! I cried, pressing my hands onto his wound to stop the bleeding. You stubborn idiot, don't you dare die on me! He reached up his bloody hand, cupping my cheek. You came back, he whispered, sounding amazed. You could have run. Why? Because, I sobbed, leaning my forehead against his. Who else is going to fix your headaches? He managed a weak chuckle, which turned into a cough. Blood trickled from his mouth. My brave little wolf. His hand slipped from my cheek. His eyes closed. No, I screamed, shaking him. Enzo, wake up, help someone help. Guards came running up the stairs. Marco was leading them. Boss, Marco shouted. He saw me covered in blood, holding Enzo. He saw the dead attackers. For a second, he raised his gun at me. Don't you dare! I growled at Marco, my voice sounding exactly like Enzo's. Get a medic now, or I will kill you myself. Marco lowered his gun. He saw the fierce protection in my eyes. He nodded. Yes, ma'am. 2 days later. Enzo was in a private hospital room, heavily guarded. He was alive. The bullet missed his vital organs, but he lost a lot of blood. I hadn't left his side. I slept in the chair next to his bed, holding his hand. I woke up to the feeling of fingers in my hair. I opened my eyes. Enzo was awake. He was watching me. You look terrible. He rasped, his voice weak but amused. You look worse, I retorted, sitting up. How do you feel? Like I got hit by a truck. It was a bullet, actually. He looked at our joined hands. He squeezed my fingers. Marco told me what happened, he said seriously. He said you took command. You saved me. I just did what had to be done. You shot your stepfather, Enzo said softly. For me, I looked away. He wasn't family. He was a disease. Enzo pulled on my hand, forcing me to lean closer. And what am I? He asked intensely. Am I a disease? Sofia? I looked into his eyes. The ice was gone. There was only fire now. No, I whispered. You're the cure. He pulled me down until my lips were inches from his. Then cure me, he breathed. He kissed me. It wasn't like the first time on the balcony. This wasn't about lust or power. It was a seal, a blood oath. His lips were dry, but his kiss was desperate, consuming. I kissed him back with everything I had, pouring all my fear and relief into it. When we broke apart, we were both breathless. Marry me, he said. I blinked. What? Marry me, he repeated firmly. Not for a merger, not for business. Marry me because you are the only person in this world I trust with my back turned. Marry me because you are the only one who can handle me. Enzo. I laughed, tears streaming down my face again. You're on drugs. You're delirious. I have never been more lucid, he swore. Say yes, Sofia, before I pass out again. Yes, I whispered, kissing his forehead. Yes, you crazy monster, I'll marry you. He smiled a real smile that reached his eyes, then his eyes rolled back and he fell asleep. But this time he was smiling, and he was still holding my hand. Church bells ringing, organ music playing a dark, majestic version of the wedding march, whispers of a large crowd. They say a white dress symbolizes purity. My dress was white, but it symbolized victory. It was silk tight at the bodice, flaring out like a cloud at the bottom. The veil covered my face, hiding the scars of my past, but my eyes were clear. I stood at the entrance of the Moretti Cathedral. Inside, 500 of the most dangerous criminals in the country were waiting. But I only cared about one. Enzo stood at the altar. He had recovered quickly. The bullet wound was now just another scar on his collection. He looked devastating in a black tuxedo, his dark hair slicked back, his gray eyes scanning the crowd with lethal precision until they landed on me. The moment he saw me, the hardness in his face melted. He didn't smile, but his eyes softened. He looked at me like I was the only light in his dark world. I walked down the aisle. Alone. I had no father to give me away. I gave myself away. When I reached the altar, Enzo took my hand. His grip was firm, warm. You look dangerous, he whispered, lifting my veil. Only for you, I whispered back. The priest began the ceremony. It was Latin, ancient, solemn. But before we could say, I do, the heavy oak doors of the cathedral banged open. Boom doors opening, murmurs of shock. Stop this wedding, a voice screeched from the back. Isabella. Of course. She couldn't let it go. She marched down the aisle wearing a black dress as if she were attending a funeral. She looked deranged. This is a farce, she yelled, pointing at us. Enzo, you cannot marry her. She is a Rossi. She is the enemy. Our families have a contract. The crowd murmured. The tension was palpable. Guns were drawn by Enzo's guards, clicking safety latches off. Enzo's face darkened. He stepped forward to protect me, his hand reaching for the gun inside his jacket. But I stopped him. I placed a hand on his chest. No, I said calmly. Let me handle this. Enzo looked at me. He saw the fire in my eyes. The wolf. He nodded slowly and stepped back. She's all yours, wife. I turned to face Isabella. I didn't yell. I didn't look angry. I looked bored. I walked down the steps of the altar until I was standing right in front of her. Isabella, I said, my voice projecting clearly through the silent cathedral. You seem lost. The funeral home is down the street. Isabella turned red. You little gutter rat. You think a ring makes you a queen? You are nothing. I am a Vitale. I have bloodlines older than your entire existence. She raised her hand to slap me. Again. But this time I wasn't the mouse. I caught her wrist in midair. My grip was steel. I twisted her arm, forcing her to wince. And I hissed, leaning close to her ear, am Sofia Moretti. And unlike Enzo, I don't have a code against hurting women. I shoved her back. She stumbled, her high heels slipping on the stone floor. She fell on her backside, looking ridiculous. Guards! I commanded, my voice echoing with authority. Two massive men stepped forward immediately. They didn't look at Enzo. They looked at me. Escort Miss Vitale out, I ordered. And if she ever steps foot in this city again, shave her head and send her back to her father in a box. Isabella gasped. The crowd went silent. Then a low murmur of approval rippled through the room. In the Mafia world, power is respected. And I had just showed them who held the leash. The guards dragged a screaming Isabella away. Let me go, you'll pay for this. Doors slamming shut. I turned back to the altar. I smoothed my dress. I looked at Enzo. He was smirking. A proud, arrogant smirk. Show off, he mouthed. I walked back to him. I do, I said to the priest, skipping the rest of the ceremony. Enzo laughed. He grabbed my face and kissed me. I do, he growled against my lips. Cheering, applause, church bells ringing wildly, soft jazz music, ice clinking in a glass, night ambience. The penthouse was quiet. The guests were gone. We were in our bedroom. Enzo sat on the edge of the bed, loosening his tie. He watched me as I took off my earrings. You were terrifying today, he said. Was I asked, turning to him. Yes. He stood up and walked over to me. It was the sexiest thing I've ever seen. He wrapped his arms around my waist, pulling me against him. I have a wedding gift for you, he murmured. Oh, more jewelry. No. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a key. An old rusted iron key. This is the key to the Rossi estate, he said. Your father's house. It was seized by the state, but I bought it back. It's yours. You can burn it, sell it, or live in it, whatever you need to close that chapter. I stared at the key. Tears pricked my eyes. He didn't just give me a house. He gave me my past back so I could bury it properly. Enzo. Don't cry. He wiped a tear from my cheek. Queens don't cry. This queen does. I sniffled, hugging him tightly. Thank you. He lifted my chin. Now, he said, his voice dropping an octave, becoming dark and hungry. I believe we have a marriage to consummate. And this time, no more sleeping on the edge of the bed. He picked me up effortlessly. Enzo, I whispered, tracing the scar on his jaw. The headache. Is it gone? He laid me on the bed, hovering over me, his body shielding me from the world. Since the moment you walked into that club, he confessed, you have been the only thing in my head. There is no room for pain. Only you. He kissed me. Deep, slow, eternal. The lights dimmed. The wolf and the beast. We weren't perfect. We were scarred, broken, and dangerous. But we belonged to each other. And in this dark, violent world, that was the only victory that mattered. Fade out with romantic music swelling.